BioWare.
Hit that like button.
BioWare, next on the list of major developers who are running their employees literally into the ground, short of death, in the worst ways possible, resulting in AAA titles that are more like D-list actors in Hollywood. Of course, we speak of Anthem. And for all of its glitz and glam for how good it looks, it's a pretty shallow experience that has done nothing for pretty much anyone. And just like in the past, one of the, if not only good writers that Kotaku actually employs. His name is Jason Schreier. I think is how you pronounce that last name. I've seen his stuff in the past. One of the few good writers out there, especially when he does these kind of things, interviews and almost like an expose type stuff. Is outlining what went wrong with Anthem. So the long short of it is that just kind of like what we saw with Rockstar with crazy crunch times and burnout like mad, was that what's his name, Soderlund or whatever, the head of EA, really stuck his dick where it didn't belong about 1,000 times over. And what it resulted in from top down was that there was no direction. This game was in development for like 6 or 7 years, and the only real, honest to God production happened in the last 18 months, with the bulk of it being the last year before launch. On a 7-year dream, bro. Can you imagine as an employee being involved in a project so heavily for 7 years and then basically resetting the fucking clock once every 9 months for 7 years and then sprinting on zero energy and nubs for legs to the finish line, face planting over the finish line, and then of course when it gets released, everyone goes, fuck you for releasing this shit video game, not knowing why it was shit in the first place.
It's rough.
Can you, like, I would want to kill myself. Like, I just, like, how much does that, 7 years, Jeff? That is as long,
It's
basically, as our career.
Yes.
So imagine us putting all of this time and effort in, and then it amounts to literally nothing. No success, no nothing, and then on top of that, a bunch of people just shit on you and then try and dismantle your entire fucking work.
It's a bad feeling.
That's garbage.
It's horrible.
And so Sutherland comes down and says, when the game first of all, it was a different name entirely. I can't remember what the name of the game was supposed to be, but they ended up not being able to secure rights to the game. So like last minute changed to Anthem, which made no sense to anyone. And for good reason, because it didn't actually tie into anything story-wise that the game had whatsoever. It was just one of their backup names when they couldn't get the other name.
What a gong show.
They literally, when I said reset the clock, they would, I mean, from the narrative to how the gameplay was coming along, they would do a bunch, they'd send it out, they'd get shot down, they'd be swapping employees out, new writers, new fucking whatever, start over. Here we go again. Nope, not good enough. Start over. Go again. Nope, not good enough. Start over. And then at one point, flying wasn't even in the game. And then they kind of worked it in last second before sending it over to Sutherland again, going into E3 where we saw that trailer with the flying down from like the top and everyone was like, wow. That is exactly what they showed to him. Yeah, exactly what they showed to him. And he was like, this is it. This is the game I've been waiting for. And so basically from that point was where they had most of that was faked, that whole thing, like most E3 demos, right? They didn't really have a single mission written, anything done, nothing from that point, from that E3. So from that E3 video that we saw, the employees went full tilt until release. Still asked for or needed like 3 more months, but EA demanded it was released within their fiscal year end, which was March, so they had to release February. So they had no choice. the game comes out in the state that it is.
Hot mess.
To make it worse is that this was also under the direction where they have, so BioWare has, I think, 3 studios in total, but the 2 main ones are Vancouver, which is the original BioWare headquarters, and then they have one down in the States. Can't remember which state it is off the top of my head. And then they have one more. And the one in the States is the one that did the Old Republic MMO. So they had experience with an online multiplayer game that never got fucking used. Every time they were like, hey, we no. and we got to the point where it was all under this initiative where all of the BioWare studios were supposed to work together and not on separate games anymore. So once Andromeda was finished, they brought everyone into the fold. And all of those different divisions were just fucking button heads. And apparently, I don't know if you would have saw this at any point or heard it at any point, but people were calling the Andromeda team like the fucking... I think the Andromeda team's in Montreal or some shit like that. They're calling them like the B team or the C team for
fucked.
BioWare. And the ranking order was Vancouver, the one in the States, and then the one that did Andromeda was dead last. But apparently, that's actually internally also how they kind of were seen. And so there was like this
hierarchy.
The hierarchy on top of it. And
You
so
on
you
the
can
C
imagine,
team, bitches.
and everyone's on edge because the shit's been re-rolled 1,000 fucking times, and deadlines are coming, and everyone's losing their minds. They lost a whack of high-level employees, and then they lost a whack of employees that have been there at the company forever and ever and ever, like artists, etc. That just straight up fucking left.
I'm done.
There are some that went on like leave and never really managed to get back because they were so fucked. Like this whole process for Anthem, going from Andromeda straight into Anthem just fucked everything. It was a gong show from beginning to end. It's a miracle the game came out looking and playing as it did. And when they had the pre-launch test done to see how it was going to likely end up in the market, the testers were like, this is probably going to be, if you get a little bit of polish, you're in the 70s on Metacritic is what we're guessing this is going to be. That didn't happen.
No.
Like a 50s somewhere.
They died on arrival.
It was bad.
Horrible.
Like real bad.
For a game this hype?
So it was crazy. But this is to the point we were just talking about with the Epic and stuff when it comes to time and money and how broken the game development cycle is right now. This is like the 3rd time in the last 2 years that we've seen major publishers have this happen to their employees or with games.
Yeah.
And when is it going to fucking end?
Well, the games, I was talking about this on my stream yesterday, and I was saying that these developers, the publishers, they're getting fucked right now. They're getting fucked because the gaming market is in a weird place where everything is free to play, or at least everything's expected to be free to play. We're in this battle royale. We went from MOBAs to battle royales essentially.
Yeah.
So you go from one free to play market to the other. A lot of these developers try to develop MOBAs. A lot of them failed. Some of them were like, and
made
then
their
failed.
money back
made
and
their
then
money
failed.
and then failed.
Yeah.
And then now we're sort of the same place with the battle royales. You take a look, and is it the quality of games these days? I'm not quite so sure, because a game like Anthem, or a game like Battlefield, or a game like what other games come out recently that hadn't done well but aren't terrible games,
Almost all of them.
Almost all of them. Yeah, exactly. So, and I think a lot of this is it's the market right now, and unfortunately, these developers they're old school, right? There's enough new school there, but they're still old school. So they think that their old ways are going to continue to work, and the market is saying they're not. We're seeing what's happening not only with Blizzard, Activision. I have never seen a juggernaut like Blizzard take such a massive fall in the run of the last 18 months. It's scary. Like, their games not only of the quality of their updates and stuff are just come off lazy and complacent and almost like a fuck you to the fans, like almost like a we don't give a fuck what you think. We're gonna keep doing what we do because we're this huge juggernaut. We're seeing it with Blizzard. We see it with EA. We're seeing it with Bethesda. I mean, we're seeing it with.
Oh, we need to talk about Bethesda after this one.
Oh, we're seeing it with them all, bro.
Yeah,
we're seeing it with them all.
Yeah,
the ones that are doing well are the ones. There are a couple like Rockstar still doing very, very well.
Yep.
I mean, they're doing their thing. You know, hats off to them. And
they're also burning their employees out like crazy.
Oh, fucking right they are.
Yeah.
And, you know, and then you've got the guys over at Apex. They've done something special.
Yep.
Epic, obviously, they're changing the game completely, literally, and they're pissing people off in the process.
Exactly.
They're disrupting the entire market, not only game wise, but also launcher wise, and how games are being developed. So, I think what it is, Adam, is they don't know what the fuck they're doing. They don't know how to adapt to where games are today. And I think a lot of them are going to just keep doing what they're doing until the market comes back to like full circle to where they're in demand now of these games. And it's scary enough is I think we're starting to come around to that now. I think people are starting to want more single player experiences again. I think people are getting burnt out of their battle royales, of their MOBAs and all this other stuff because we're starting to see the come around again and people are getting excited for single player games. It just so happens that a lot of these AAA publishers now are now trying to produce what people are now getting sick of, and by the time the games come out, people are already like, we don't want this shit anymore, and they're just not doing well. Anthem is basically Destiny. That's what it is, man. It's a
And here's something fun. Okay, so internally when the game was being developed, nobody was allowed to talk about or make comparisons to Destiny. And so what ends up happening there is
Heroes of the Storm.
Is the development.
It's a brawler. It's not a MOBA.
But they weren't able to learn from everything that Destiny had learned over the course of their development because they weren't allowed to make comparisons or to even talk about Destiny internally during the production of Anthem.
It's Destiny, man. It's a shittier version of Destiny. That's what it is. And if you're coming out in 2019, it better be a way better version of Destiny. It better be everything that Destiny isn't, but all the stuff that Destiny is, but better. And then adding to the stuff that they wish you could get. And that's pretty much what Apex did in the Battle Royale sector. They took everything that was great about all the other Battle Royales, and then they kind of commingled it all together into one cohesive game with hackers. But the fundamentals are there, and that's what made them great. That's what makes them. It's not another Fortnite clone or another PUBG clone. We've already got those games. We've already got a Destiny. You know, so that's where games are right now. I'm happy. I know I'm cynical about it, but I'm happy to see these developers just fucking shit the goddamn bed. I feel bad for the people working there because those are hard-working people. Their dream is to make video games. They go to school. They do all this stuff.
There's always, like, in life, there's always a generation that ends up having to be the one that takes the fall for the generation that comes after them. And we are unfortunately seeing the generation right now.
Look how many people have been fired or let go from developing games over the last 2 years.
Not even in the last year, because as soon as one company does it, everyone does it to reduce the bad PR.
Because, they're doing it, and, they're a bigger company. They've got the headlines. We can just sweep it under the rug.
People forget about it faster.
And the reason why, it's not because video game industry is getting smaller.
No.
It's getting bigger.
Yeah.
It just means your games are not you're not doing a good job at producing what people want, and you're rushing shit out, and you're still. It's just a fucking mess.
Well,
man.
even Anthem. I mean, that's and therein lies some of the problem. Anthem wasn't even rushed out. It was a 7-year development.
Well, it was rushed to get out.
Yes,
but it wasn't rushed in the development. They just didn't know what the fuck they were doing.
And it's another example in this case. It's another example of EA getting whenever EA gets involved with their developers, the game dies.
Yes,
it burns up in orbit before it even hits Earth. It's already dead.
EA is worried about the shareholders.
Soderlund is fucking everything up. The only game that EA is attributed to recently that has success is ironically the one that they had no hand in.
I know. It's crazy, huh?
That should tell Patrick
to
get his hands
out
of the cookie jar and worry about being a fuck boy on the E3 stage, just telling sweet little lies like Todd Howard. That's all he has to do. And then leave the developers to do their jobs. Because you obviously don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
If you don't have trust in the people that are making your games, then fire them and hire people that you trust to do the shit right. Know your role, man. It's crazy. It's crazy. So there it is with them. Not a huge surprise. It's a fail. It's a fail.
I feel horrible for the developing, like the people in the development within BioWare across the board. It's nobody's fault below the management. It was a top-down problem.
It's a management issue.
100%.
It's a management issue.
And now, unfortunately, they've lost a lot of their key players.
Good.
From every position imaginable.
Good.
Some of them have already gone off to make up. I can't remember the name of the company. New company just announced they're making their first game. So they're off doing their thing. Fucking let's go. Put it on the Epic launcher.
I was just about to say, put on the goddamn Epic launcher and make as much money as you can and make great games.
Do it. Make good fucking video games. So to your point about where things are, here's how I see it: is that I think we have to be getting to a point where we've reached critical mass for how bombastic games can be. The scope of games, I think I've said this on the podcast a million times now, scope of games gotten too fucking big. And what it results in is you get these games as a service type deal where a major developer will release a game that is 1/10 of a fucking video game, and then you pay $60 for it, and then or $80 in Canada, and then you over the course of the next 2 to 3 years, you get the remaining percentage of that game that should have been all there in one go.
Yes.
And instead of the $60 or $80, you spend $120 to $160.
Yes.
By the end of it, which for them means they can make more money and reuse assets and make that all work from a financial perspective. All because the scope of the game otherwise would be too big for them to go away and do all of it at once, release it, and shebang. It's too risky, too expensive.
Yep.
So I think games need to fucking
bring it down. Unless you're Rockstar,
bring it back in a bit.
Unless you're Rockstar and you know what the fuck you're doing.
But even they need to, because they're going to kill their employees.
That's true. That is true. They need to
fucking reel that bad boy in a bit.
But I'm with you. The games just need to get a little bit more concise, a little bit more focused.
Because it's getting too expensive.
And they're just doing too much.
Too complicated to do.
They're just doing too much.
Just bring it back.
Whatever happened to just good storytelling? You know, that's like when a Naughty Dog game comes out. You're just enjoying a game.
Yeah.
There isn't this.
Because what happens when you have a game like Anthem, right, which is a beautiful looking game, is that's only impressive for the first 2 hours that you play it.
Yep.
And then nobody's really paying that close attention.
You get desensitized to the beauty. It's just
at that point, what matters? Am I having fun with this video game? That's all that matters. Now, if the visual, from an artistic perspective, is integral to the storytelling that you're having, that doesn't even necessarily mean that the fidelity of the graphics have to be fucking through the roof and super hyper realistic.
No.
It just means that it has to fit with what you're doing.
Adam, it's a relationship.
That's all it is.
It's a relationship. If you're with a woman, and she's a beautiful woman, and you're like, man, I was at a bar, I met this chick, man, she is hot as fuck. You take her home, you have a good time, you do this for all week. Go 3 times in the run of a week. At the end of the day, when you wake up in the morning and after the fun is kind of seeped through, you've nutted several times now, she's beautiful, that's great, but do you like her? Do you like waking up next to her? Can you talk to her?
You thought with your dick.
Does she have bad breath?
Probably. Not worse than mine though.
Can you literally just sit and enjoy their company? Because it's a grind. It's gonna be the long
You're
stretch
in for the
here.
long haul.
It's the same as a video game. These types of video games. oh, sure, I can bust a nut and have a good time and tell you how beautiful looking and shit you are. I'm going to use you for a little bit.
I only need 45 seconds for that.
That's it. But eventually, that's all going to come down and reality is going to sink in.
Eventually, you're 60.
Yes.
And you're not as attractive anymore, so you can't really go for that.
No.
Not everyone is Helen Mirren.
Can I listen to her voice?
Yes.
Is it going to drive me crazy?
Yeah.
And if the answer is, well, I don't know, your game probably isn't very good. And it most certainly isn't very good on a 10-year development commitment.
No.
And yearly seasonal passes that's costing me money. Bitch, I already spent the goddamn money on the first few dates. I ain't trying to spend $80 every 6 months for the same play that I had gotten before. I'd rather taste something that's not as attractive, that's a better damn time. That I can play for years on end and not get sick of it. Like a good sushi meal. I'm not trying to eat lobster every night. I love me some lobster. But I'm telling you right now, you eat enough of that shit.
You don't want lobster anymore.
You don't want lobster anymore.
Probably go for your bank account if you didn't.
And that. Same with the games.
Yes.
It's good for my bank account. Give me one fucking game that's 40 hours long. That's a great time. Give me a game that's 12 hours long. That's a great time.
Give me a game that's fucking 6 hours long. Just make it a good game.
Please. Please.
And this is why I like Epic's whole thing, right? Is that when you get such a deep discount, especially if you use the Unreal Engine, which is already a solid, flexible engine to begin with, sure shit better than the fucking EA Frostbite fuck show that he's pushed on every single fucking studio to make every single game that it has no right.
No.
It allows for a chance that developers, still on the bigger side of development, can perhaps consider self-publishing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that gets the Sutherlands the fuck out of your hair and out of your pants.
And watch how good games start to become again.
And then watch what fucking happens.
Just watch.
Let the developers do what they're good at.
Develop.
Make video games. Worry about the business side, right? Sutherland should be worried about the fact that he's done a shit job and now FIFA's the only thing propping up the entire fucking company. And some people would say, well, they're never going to go back to it because they can't make the money. Well, that's just it. If developers, there's going to be a generation where this collapses. Mm-hmm. It's too big. Mm-hmm. They're too fucking big. Mm-hmm. 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 They can't support their own weight. Mm-hmm. But just as a side note to that BioWare thing, just because I've reminded myself when I was saying that last bit, is that they had a very similar situation with Dragon Age Inquisition, which was, I believe, the first game that BioWare was forced to use the Frostbite engine to create. And Frostbite had literally 0 systems in place to make something like Dragon Age Inquisition. It was made for first-person shooters, not third-person RPGs. There wasn't even a save system implemented. They had to build so much from scratch just because they were forced to use Frostbite.
Gong show.
Ironically, probably losing them more money than if they had just
stuck with the original,
gotten a different engine that was suited for the fucking task. Imagine spending all those years and how hard it is to make games as it is, and then do it with an engine that's fighting you every fucking step of the way because you're doing shit isn't.
We'll figure it out, Adam. They'll figure it out.
It's fine. Go figure it out.
Go figure it out.
That's your job.
Yeah.
Go do it.
We've got 18 months.
And so a lot of employees were apparently kind of low-key hoping that Dragon Age Inquisition wouldn't be successful because it was rushed quite substantially because of the engine problems. It's just so happens that at that time, BioWare still had all of their gods, and they pulled it the fuck off and released a game that did extraordinarily well. And they were all happy about it, but at the same time they went, fuck, because now they're going to think that this is okay.
Set a precedent here.
Yeah.
This is going to be the new norm.
Precedent has been set, and now all of a sudden, we're fucked.
Rip.
And now here we are with Anthem, and now Anthem is the one that's taking it. Now Anthem's the 55 Metacritic shit show.
Get fucked. What's next? Fuck Anthem.
Todd Howard.
It's going to be one of these podcasts, bro. Come on, bro.
Well, that's why I got the happy stuff. Maybe I should have sprinkled the happy in between.
Should have sprinkled.
Maybe. I'll save that thought for next time. But hey, more Cyan World games coming. Buckle up for that. They're self-publishing because they're doing it through Kickstarter.
Yeah.
They know what's up.
They know what the fuck is up.
They know what's up.
I can guarantee their game won't suck either.
Exactly. On 1.7 million.
Yeah, exactly.